Awesome, you just got this well-paying gig for this weekend. It's crunch time though, since you need to learn 50 songs by then. Are you ready, Adam? So ready! Let's do this. Let's learn some charts. There are a couple different kinds of charts you can write. If you're like most people, you might write something out like this, which can be a very helpful guide. You have the chords and the different sections and maybe some notes on what sort of riffs to play when. But the more songs you end up learning, the more of these charts kind of tend to blend together so every song looks the same. This makes them harder to remember, and of course the entire point of writing a chart is to remember the song. This is why when I write charts for myself, I write sheet music with as many details as possible. Sibelius and Finale are the industry standards for musical notation programs. I personally use Sibelius, but MuseScore is a great open source alternative if you don't want to spend any money on anything. When we're writing full charts out like this, reading becomes extremely important. Being able to read later on what you transcribe now can make it so that you can accurately play hundreds of songs without forgetting any of the details. Like that specific riff that happens only on the third bar on the fourth verse, for example. All of it is right there on the page. It's this reason why reading music can be so important, for reasons that weren't so obvious when you were first learning how to read music. If you've completely forgotten how to play a song but you can read music well, that's no problem because you have the music right in front of you that you yourself wrote down. It's in this way that written music is kind of like an extension of your musical memory, and reading music is the way that you actually access that memory. You can sort of think about like when oral literature was first being transcribed down into the written word. Great epics that previously only existed in the minds of storytellers now are accessible for anybody who could read. For spoken language, the written word greatly expanded our collective ability to remember things, and reading sheet music does the same thing for our collective ability to remember songs. Hey Adam, why write your own charts when there's tons of published music out there that you can buy? Well, Adam, for me, the big reason is I just don't trust the music that's being written in most of published sheet music. Even if they might be 99% accurate, and that's extremely generous, by the way, that's still not enough to engender complete trust in the written sheet music. Instilling that trust is absolutely essential to feel confident in what you're playing. I trust my own ear and my ability to write down bass lines, chords, and riffs more than anybody else. I also like to lay out my charts in a very specific way that no publisher does. Here are a few tips for laying out your charts. 1. Write as accurate a version of the bass line as you possibly can. It can be tempting for certain songs to just write chords and slashes. Slashes meaning play whatever feels appropriate to you with the given style. For example, in the first chart I ever wrote for Sister Sledge's We Are Family, I completely missed the bass fill that occurs the third time through the chord progression every chorus. Instead, I just sort of played over that. Being accurate is very important. 2. Write everything out. Try and avoid repeats if you can, and God help you if you write a DS al coda. These conventions were mainly for the benefit of people who are writing music out by hand, or maybe music engravers who needed to squeeze as much music onto a sheet of paper as possible. But in this digital age where copying and pasting music is so easy on notational programs, they really don't matter. I know it might sound a little strange and counterintuitive not to use DSL coda or repeats or anything like that, but try it sometime. It ends up being a lot easier to read. I write a lot of jazz big band music, and all it takes is just one person out of 17 musicians who forgets to take the repeat to completely ruin the music.
Usually the guitarist.
If you're laying out page turns logically, it's just much safer to write it all out. 3. Name the sections of the music, like chorus or verse. This helps to keep your place in the song and also gives you a general framework from which to play. Preparing sheet music is almost kind of a psychological endeavor that helps to get you the information that you need to feel comfortable while playing from the sheet of music. Knowing that you've started the second verse or that the bridge is coming up in 4 bars can be very, very useful. 4. Write in some chord symbols. This is also a psychological tip, but it also can give you some harmonic context in case you ever want to improvise around a written bass line. Little things like this can go a long way to creating an effective chart for yourself. 5. Write in instrumental cues or lyric cues. Knowing which lyric occurs when can give you a very strong guidepost. God forbid if you ever got lost, you know exactly what's coming when you hear that particular lyric. With these little cues, you're kind of acting as your own conductor. Just as conductors cue different groups of sections with music, you are acting as your own helping hand. The more information you can give yourself, the better. It's better to have a chart stuffed with information than completely devoid of it. There are other ways of writing out charts other than sheet music. My friend Sean Crowder is a drummer, and he got something from Mike Mangini, the drummer from Dream Theater, called block form. And this sort of idea is nice for drummers because you can lay everything out on a single page, because page turns are a lot trickier for them. To give you an idea for laying out a chart my way, I filmed myself through the entire process of learning a chart and laying it out. The whole process took about 15 minutes, so I condensed it a little bit for your viewing pleasure. Enjoy. So I have to learn some new songs for this wedding that I have coming up on Saturday. This is the main sheet that the Metropolitan players sent me for learning songs and all the details from the wedding. And these are all the requests that typically we don't play on our repertoire sheet. Fortunately, I know most of these songs, and I've charted them out for other weddings before. But I don't know Forever Young, Bob Dylan, and I also don't know Just Like Heaven, The Cure. So let's tackle the Cure song. So typically whenever I'm learning a new song, I'll go to Spotify, not YouTube. YouTube, one of the unfortunate things with YouTube is a lot of times people pitch songs up and down a half step just to avoid like the algorithms that help detect copyright infringement. So sometimes you'll learn a song and it's in a completely wrong key. That's happened to me several times before, and it was very rude awakening because I find out on the gig when people start playing a song in one key and I'm playing it in another, so that's not good. So this is Spotify. I have the unpaid version, so we might run into an ad, but that's all right. So Just Like Heaven. I'll just edit that out in post. Okay, cool. So before I start playing it, I'm going to start setting up my chart. So this is Sibelius. I use Sibelius. New chart, bass staff, whatever. I'm assuming it's going to be in 4/4, but we'll find out. We'll figure out the key later. Just Like Heaven, The Cure. Finish. Okay, this is our new chart that we're going to work out. So before we start anything, I'm going to assume that there's going to be an introduction, so I like to create an intro tag like that just before we start listening. And okay, let's start listening. Okay, so it's in the key of A. That much I figured out. A major, woohoo. Now there's a little bit of a drum thing. I just want to listen to this a couple times just to make sure that I got the right rhythm. So it looks like the drums are kind of doing a little fill. They're kind of filling on beats 1 and 2, and that was a little confusing the first time I was listening to it. But the bass starts actually right from the beginning. So we're going to go bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 something like that. So is that the actual rhythm? Let's test it out. Bum, 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 ba, dum, ba, da, dum, da, 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 something like that. Cool. I generally like to be as specific with the rhythms as possible in the beginning of the piece when I'm writing stuff out. And then eventually I'll change the different things around. Dun, dun, da, 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 dun. Dun, da, 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 da. Cool. And okay, so there we go. That's probably the first 4 bars. All right. Write some chord symbols. That sounds like an A chord. Even though it's just bass and drums, this is still important. That's probably going to be a B minor chord. And that's a D chord. All right. So let's keep listening. Okay, so one of the best things about Sibelius is the R key, so I can select a bunch of measures and actually just press R and then it just repeats. So blah, blah, blah. If something would repeat that many times, I could literally just keep pressing R. So what I like to do as just a roadmap for myself, I'm going to write in a description of what the other instruments are doing. So this is guitar in thirds. You could hear that the guitar was playing the same riff, basically the same rhythm in major and diatonic thirds, and that's sort of repeated twice. And I also like to draw double bar lines just to show exactly the beginnings of new sections. So the beginning, that's just the intro, and then the guitars in thirds right there. All right, so let's keep going. Let's keep listening. Okay. Okay, so far we had the strings come in here,
And again, it's the same bass line going on, but I really, really like to know what else is going on just in case I get lost. I need to know how many times. It also helps me just feel like I'm playing the song a little bit more. Guitar riff 2 enters. And then just playing the same bass line over and over and over again, which is essentially so far what's been going on. Now, sometimes people will sometimes like to use one of these guys, a 4-bar repeat. And eventually I might start using this, but when I consolidate everything down. But for right now, I'm just going to keep going the way that I've been doing it. Okay, so guitar riff 2 enters. Entered 2 times. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. Actually, I've kind of lost my spot, so let's hold on. Okay, there's the bit of guitar riff 2 enters. I have a hunch that this section is just going to repeat. It's a different riff, so we're going to have 2 sections repeat like that. Oh, no, you know what? It's really legitimately a 16-bar phrase. Okay, so just remember that. That was the verse or whatever that was. Okay, so this is the guitar riff section. 16 bars. Okay, just so I have a reference right here. And again, all the same notes, all the same everything. Okay, so I'm going to create another page just because it's getting a little crowded here. Then we have, okay. Then we have verse. So again, all the same thing. Cool, good to know. Okay, new section. Nope. All right, back to the guitar riff section. I'm going to hazard a guess, just musically speaking, that this is only going to be for 8 bars. Nope. It's going the full 16. All right. Got another versey sort of thing. All right, new section. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we got let's see, that was an F sharp, okay, the G, I'm just gonna call this the bridge. I don't really know what you would call it, but it's usually my go-to for new sections. Bridge. So like kind of F sharp minor-y sort of thing. G, cool. And that repeated at least 3 times, and then we had some more stuff. That's where I stopped. Oops, nope. Don't delete those. Okay. You know what? Just for the sake of it, I'm going to just use this symbol. Double. Okay, so that means that these 2 measures are repeated right there like that. So I'm just going to do that for the sake. Right now, we might go back and consolidate some of this stuff. Okay, so that was for 3 times, and then we hit a new chord. What was that? 2, dun, 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 dun. So I think that was 4 times. Let's just something like that. Dun, 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 something like that. I don't know. Sometimes I just notate some of these rhythms and they're not 100%. Let's see. Yeah, okay. I think that's right. Okay, cool. Okay, so now we got the bridge coming in here. Oh, interesting. Okay. So that's an interesting ending. We just sort of end on the... Oh, not another Cure song. Okay. It's an interesting ending. We sort of end on that D chord, which was the one at the end of that first bridge. Okay, cool. So right now what I'm doing is I'm preparing the part. I'm sort of getting it to look correct. I've been using this 4-bar repeat symbol just to sort of tamp down a little bit on the total number of bars that have the exact same music, because that can get a little bit taxing on the eye when you're trying to read it. Let's see. I also want to try and space out the music so that it's logical and you don't really it's not too cramped on any one page. Let's see. Generally speaking, I like to put 8 systems per page, 8 or 9. This is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This might be a little bit too spaced out just because this music doesn't really work too much. Maybe I'll do it here. Now, it does mean that I'm splitting the bridge onto 2 separate pages, this section, which is not super ideal, but I think it's going to be okay in this instance. Yeah, that looks like a decent spacing. Okay, cool. Especially if I continue using this 4-bar repeat symbol in here a couple times. Okay, there we go. That sort of spaces everything out. Okay, so yeah, there we go. This is Just Like Heaven by The Cure. This is probably going to be my final version of the chart. And yes, it does take up 3 pages, but I like to have, like you saw, I like to have everything laid out so I know exactly what's happening. You know, it feels like you're playing the song a lot more if you have it written out like this, so you can like hear and catch when everybody else is playing what they're going to be playing, like the strings or the guitars and thirds, guitar riff section, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And also the advantage of doing this is that I never really have to learn the song again. I basically have it committed 100%, even though I just listened to it basically once all the way through. I didn't even listen to it all the way through. I just listened to it in sections. But now I have this song essentially forever, which is great. Yeah, cool.
A pianist with whom I work writes incredibly detailed charts for himself, and he says even though it takes about 45 minutes to an hour for every chart, he considers it time saved, because once he has that chart, he never has to relearn that chart again. He has it. It's set. Write well thought out charts, and future you will forever be grateful to past you. This has been Adam Neely's Bass Lessons. Please comment, like, and subscribe if you've enjoyed what we've been talking about. And yeah, until next time, bass.